Are you guys ready for the most favorable statement ever heard by a median voter? Folks, believe it or not, it's not actually good for your mental health to consume political news nonstop 24/7, especially in fraught times like these, and then not actually do anything about it. You know, you're just sitting there, you're thinking, what are you doing? I've got good news for you. Progressive Victory right now is gunning up for a big event October 5th and 6th in Wisconsin, canvassing for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, our preferred candidate for the presidency and vice presidency, if you didn't know. And they're doing phone banking and canvassing all over the country, okay? Basically what I'm saying is you should check out Progressive Victory's activities, you know? Pinned comment down below. I know you're thinking I'm busy, I don't want to do it, it's going to be difficult. I get so many people saying it's better than they think it's going to be. It's good. At least take a look. There's a lot going on. Maybe you think, oh, I'll contribute an hour a week, and then it turns out, you know, maybe you contribute 2 hours. You're having so much fun. Just give it a look.
Mom of 3, a grandmother of 7, and 3 great-grands, a registered nurse, retired nurse. So I know the cost that goes into raising children and running a household.
Yeah.
People just can't survive now. How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you.
Guys, you don't have to say black don't crack every time a black person ever shows. I'm going to start banning you guys for it, okay? It's like me errantly making a comment about a pretty lady, and then every time a woman shows up, everyone in chat is like, "Oh, ooga boo!" Like you people are you don't have an understanding of the social ebb and flow as I do.
So
I'm as is well known. As the most socially aware autist, like the one-eyed man leads the blind. Okay, you guys need to dial it the back down.
we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal, and we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, we've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are...
By doing via magic. His answer to this is that he's going to frack, like, a lot, but that's not really what your energy bill comes from, necessarily. Like, fracking isn't going to solve the issue with your energy bill, necessarily. Like, the proportion of where your energy bill comes from varies massively state to state. We're already, like, producing an ungodly amount of, you know, we're fracking quite a bit. We're producing a lot of natural gas, so...
going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good, and interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, you know, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point?
Also, I want you to apply, like, a little bit of critical thinking. Decreasing the cost of your energy bill would mean lowering the value of the natural gas or of the energy production that, like, you know, energy companies are currently dredging up and selling. Like, if your energy bill is lower, that means the coal or natural gas or whatever energy source that is used to power your house is less expensive, which means less profit for the company doing it. Do you think they're going to do that? Do you think the extremely fossil fuel captured Republican Party is going to manufacture a plan that leads to lowered profits for natural gas, for oil, for coal? Doesn't America have an energy surplus at the moment? Yes. I mean, in the sense that we produce enough to cover our needs, and the reason why we trade energy with other countries is either to export it or because there are marginal economic benefits to trading around the resources. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that the economy isn't complicated. It is. But fundamentally, yes, we cover our energy needs.
But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down. And
how do you trade energy with other countries? Well, I mean, you trade the things that get turned into energy, like natural gas and oil and stuff.
We got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated. And, you know, one of the reasons is we allow a lot of farm product into our country, and we're going to have to be a little bit like other countries. We're not going to allow so much we're going to let our farmers go to work. And I don't know if you remember, I love the farmers because, you know, I had many meetings as president. I have this gorgeous room with this beautiful table that seats about 35 people. And I was with the farmers. Usually everybody wants something. They all...
The Kid's Guide to President Trump. FreeTrumpBook.com. That's great, man. How do you whitewash Donald Trump?
...want subsidy. But I was with the farmers, and I think you might have been there, actually, Sarah. I said, look, fellas, we're going to get you such a beautiful subsidy, meaning I'm going to do things. And one of the people raises in, sir, honestly, we don't want a subsidy. This is the first time this ever happened to me. Everyone wants, they want money, they want to build...
A farmer saying they don't want a subsidy. Okay.
Windmills, we want money with these windmills. Anyway, but you know what? It was amazing. He said, almost tears in his eyes, they were getting decimated. We don't want a subsidy. We just want to...
Well, I wish they'd finish that damn sentence. A cut in all that rambling nonsense is he essentially says, yeah, how are we going to lower grocery costs? We're going to tariff food coming into the country. We really are on the precipice of like incredible economic ruin, you know? What people give, one of the things that people like to do, you know how there are a lot of contrarians out there who aren't like ideologically neo-Nazi, but they love telling you about Nazi superweapons. And one of the things they like bringing up is the fact that Hitler revitalized Germany's economy. And then you look more into it and you realize that a lot of the revitalization was just happening all over the world, and a significant part of it was fueled by a war economy. Like, it's actually relatively easy to give an economy a short-term boost if you dump everything into like an incredibly militaristic buildup, and then you fuel your deficit spending with essentially war plunder. You know, like as it turns out, like you can, it's not sustainable, but you can get some work done if you run things that way. We don't even have the plunder of a war economy to prop us up. We are genuinely going to be like, we are facing economic ruin, you know? Do you have any idea what those Trump tariffs would do? Argentina too. Let's go. I love how the average American thinks commercial farmers are still like hand-tilling the soil. They really are the most pandered to economic group in the country. The idea that every farmer is like this honest Joe overall wearing, you know, salt of the earth kind of guy, when most of them are practically slave wranglers down by the border who you know, deliberately manipulate, in some cases like facilitate the trafficking of underpay, you know, migrant workers to make insane profits that all get kind of like, you know, brought into these. I mean, it's not like these farmers own their own farms in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, they're just like middle management, and there's one step up in the chain. And it's these gigantic corporations that own massive swaths of land. But, you know, whatever. Yeah, we know what tariffs would do because people won't shut up about what they will do. I disagree. I genuinely think that the average American does not know what a tariff is. Like, I won't shut up about it because, I don't know, I'd like to think I cater to a slightly more intelligent group of people than the median voter. I don't think it's possible to fall below that line, to be honest with you. You can hit the line. I don't know if you can fall below it. Median voter's an insult for a reason. But, like, I really don't think the average American knows what a tariff is. I mean, Trump doesn't even know what tariffs are. That's true, or at least he doesn't know what they do. Kamala called it a sales tax in the debate so she wouldn't have to fry the brain of a median voter with an explanation of tariffs. Yeah. It doesn't help that all people get from high school econ classes is capitalist indoctrination. I don't even think it's that, because a capitalist would tell you that tariffs are horrible. You know, I don't even think this is like the, you know, innate indoctrination of the, you know, the economic paradigm we all live within. I think it's just, Vosh, I understand that regular and petite bourgeois make up the ownership of basically all farmland, but there are farmers out there who work rented land with finance equipment out here in the Midwest. Yeah, and a lot of those people are just middle managers, and their land is actually owned by someone else. There are some, like, genuine farm-to-table operations, sure. Like, there are some examples of that happening. Well, I'm not just some, like, they're all over the place. But that doesn't change the fact that farmers are a massively over-coddled demographic, you know? Like, that would be like suggesting that, you know, textile manufacturing isn't overall basically a slave trade managed by multinational corporations, just because, like, there are some people out there that are crocheting scarves and selling them at a local market. Like, yeah, but that's not what you think of. And when people talk about farmers, they're not talking about, like, you know, oh yeah, this marginal percentage of them that are actually like, self-owned and operated. They're talking about the overall industry, the archetype of a farmer, which the archetype of a farmer nowadays is not accurate. Here's a bunch of nerds article on the impact of Trump's proposed tariffs. Yeah. A worldwide 10% tariff and 60% tariff on Chinese goods proposed by Donald Trump would lower average after-tax incomes in 2025 by about $1,800. They reduce imports into the U.S. by $5.5 trillion, or 15% from 2025 to 2034. I actually feel like this is an understatement. For one, Donald Trump has floated 10% as the lower end of his proposed tariff. It could be 10 to 20%. And for two, I feel like the knock-on effects, because one thing that the eggheads often don't consider, because it's not like an official consequence, is that once prices raise in some departments, companies that aren't affected by the tariffs as much will then raise their prices up more because they can get away with it. We literally saw that happen in the during the pandemic, where the pandemic's supply line shortages led to some companies having to raise prices. Literally nothing they could do about that except shut down. Okay, that's what happens when you disrupt supply lines. And then other companies who were doing fine were like, oh, we're raising prices. Ha 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 ha. And then they brought it up. And it's like, oh, okay. You're just evil. I get it. Inflation expectations. Yeah, it's going to be ruinous. I think it'll be a lot worse, Pareto salad. I mean, I think this is bad enough that I suspect that even if Trump wins, he won't be able to get this through. It's not like corporations benefit much from this. Well, not all corporations. Then again, corporations doing well and the capital class doing well aren't necessarily the same thing. Does the lowering of the Fed interest rate mean anything impactful? I mean, it means people are going to borrow more. It'll be easier to get the loans that you need to, like, buy a house or whatever. You motherfuckers out there buying houses, is that what you're doing? When you're not donating to me, you greedy I do really love these bits with Donald Trump being asked direct questions. It's a bit cynical to say they're just being evil. Scheherazadian, how are you a yellow name with takes like that? That corporations are evil? I don't think that's cynical at all. I believe that. The class interests of the bourgeoisie incentivize them to act in ways that hurt the vast majority of people, I mean, you could say that using the term evil is a bit simplistic. I mean, maybe it's a little bit like emphatic. It's a little bit, I don't know, maybe child book cartoonish. I understand this, but I still believe it, At the end of the day, every time these corporations are raising prices with no, like, economic necessity behind it, with no, like, there's nothing in the supply line that makes it so they have to do this. They're doing it to make more money. They're sitting there in a corporate office agreeing, yes, we know this will hurt people. This will lower the quality of life of tens of millions of people, but we're going to do it because we are, monetarily, we're required to prioritize the monetary well-being of our shareholders. And, I mean, past a point, we're just doing the same argument as the well, I was just following orders, It wasn't personal, malevolent evil that caused me to do the things that hurt millions of people. I was just following orders. I have a fiduciary responsibility to my shareholders. You know how it is.
Mr. President, we know that here in Nevada, the number one issue is the economy.
Right.
What I wanted to find out from you, what one policy or program would you pursue that you think is most important that would help local Las
Vegas
in terms of the economy?
And I think maybe the whole country, we're going to have interest rates coming down very rapidly because the interest rates are so high right now. You can't buy a home. It's we were at 2%, 2.2.
It's worth noting, by the way, that I like higher interest rates. I mean, I like them in the sense that I think they're better policy. We've had a lot of trouble caused by, like, an economic system in which everything is unaffordable, but don't worry, you can get the money together to get it anyway. You can get the loan anyway. And I don't know. If you want people to be able to buy houses, don't kick down the interest rates, lower the price of the houses,
2%, and they're now at 10%, but you can't get any money. So interest rates are going to be very important, the availability of money. As far as hotel workers and things, as you know, no tax on tips is going to be very good. Also, also
a shit policy, of course. Like, no tax on tips is going to lead to so much, like, corruption in the back end where everything becomes a tip, It's not, whatever. I mean, functionally, in a lot of cases, people are already not paying taxes on tips if they're cash. Because look, I'm not going to ask them. I'm not going to out them. I just get a feeling that a lot of like strippers and waitresses, you give them the cash tip. I really don't think they're filing their, they're not reporting that. Of course, a lot of people have the through a credit card tip. And in that case, you can't really help it, but.
We announced last week, and I think it's going to be even maybe in a certain way more important, no tax on overtime. And then for the seniors, which will be fantastic because they've been devastated by inflation, this makes up for it. This will just about make up for it. We're going to have no tax on Social Security benefits. So those three things are going to be great for this area.
Yeah, absolutely. Working people, seniors would all benefit from those things. Let me ask you this: once you take that revenue out of the federal budget, how are you going to replace that?
We're going to have tremendous growth. We're going to have, drill baby drill. We have more liquid gold under our feet than anybody else. And
I know we often forget this, but when this is suggested, like oil and natural gas companies fracking more does not increase the amount of money the government has. That's not how that works. Like opening up more fracking permits so so fossil fuel companies can extract more, that doesn't increase the federal budget. That's not how that works. Like, you're taxing on economic activity, sure, but that's not anywhere near the amount you would need.
And we're going to be charging countries that have been ripping us off for years with tariffs. And the tariffs will make us, we'll have money like we've never had before. We're going to charge countries that it's a one-way street. For many, many years, it's been that way. In fact, I did a lot of it with China. I charged them hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes, and we had no inflation, essentially no inflation. But
except all the, as I keep saying over and over, the gains that we got from tariffing China during that time were almost entirely directed in subsidies to farmers who were hurt massively by those tariffs.
We're going to have countries that have been hurting us and ripping us for years, taking advantage of us on trade and everything else. They're going to pay tariffs. And, the word tariff sort of in some
I also think, and this is not a novel observation on my part, but I do think it's worth pointing out that to the fascist, economics is just another medium through which national grievances can be expressed. There's no policy here that's being done because it's like sound policy. It's being done as a way of bludgeoning other countries. They've been ripping us off for years. We're going to get them. They've been taking advantage of us. It always has to be framed in a narrative of like national upheaval, or like we have faced humiliation, but now we will humiliate them with our greater strength. It's like a classically fascist way of thinking about economic policy. It's pretty straightforward.
People, and I say not very smart people, but in some people's minds, tariff is a dirty word. It's not a dirty word. To me, it's the most beautiful word there is. It's not going to raise your, inflation. It's not going to do it. All it's going to do is get you even. So we have a tremendous deficit under Biden-Harris, or Harris-Biden, however you want to figure it. We're losing $2 trillion a year. With the tariffs, we can get that number down to a very manageable number. Even ultimately, we can break it even. And it's going to generate tremendous growth because rather than paying the tariffs, there is no tariff if you build your plant in the United States, like the auto workers. The auto workers are going to be out of business. We're not going to have any auto workers anymore. It's going to all go through China and other countries, including Mexico, by the way. And we charge tariffs.
How can anyone believe this shit, honestly? Well, we don't really teach economic literacy in schools, so the average person has genuinely no understanding of what any of this means, like at all. They're just following along for signifiers that they can relate to, like, oh, made in America, bring back manufacturing. They're like simple icons to gesture what the politics of the statement are at, but they can't follow like the details. To be fair, I don't understand how the economy works. Don't worry, nobody does. A lot of it is vibes based, and people hate to admit that, but it's true. In this case, though, like, this is all nonsensical. Is he also suggesting tariffing imports from Mexico? A flat tariff from every nation.
We put tariffs on those cars, and they're not going to be able to sell them, and therefore they're wasting their time in building the plant. But we'll say, build the plant over here. If you build that plant over here, there's no tariff. And they're going to end up building.
Why does he actually support tariffs? Empty, vacuous America First messaging that either won't get passed if he is in office, or this is an example of, your eyes being bigger than your stomach, basically. Like, even if it hurts the capital interest. Like, think about it, Hitler was fully up and in arms with big business in Germany. It did not benefit big business in Germany to start the ruinous World War II that led to most of their production facilities being reduced to smoldering craters. It is, in fact, possible for fascists and the bourgeoisie to link arm in arm and march to their mutual destruction. If they were rational decision makers, their preferred ideology for settling, their interests would not be fascism.
Building the plants over here. We're going to bring back the auto workers. We're going to bring back business. We're going to bring back manufacturing. And we were doing it. And then when we got hit with the COVID, we had to focus on the COVID. But we were just starting to do it. We had everything fixed. We made the USMCA deal, which people love, one of the best trade deals we've ever made. He's so shiny. But we're going to be doing it, and we're going to bring back manufacturing. And a big part of that's going to be the automobile manufacturing.
Do you worry, though, sir, that if you put tariffs on those foreign goods, that prices will increase, and that'll wipe out any advantage of your no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security?
What it's going to actually do is take away the profit that these countries are making. This is just eating into. They're going to still make plenty, but they're not going to make the kind of money they've made over the last 40 years. For 40 years, you take
the profits these countries are making.
A look. Mexico is making $230 billion deficit we have with
What?
Mexico. And
Mexico is making $230 billion deficit we have with Mexico.
They're going to make much less and maybe break even. But we have to do that because it's not even sustainable. That's why
we have a trade deficit with a lot of countries because America is ungodly wealthy and other countries scramble to produce things for us to buy. That's a symbol of our wealth. Countries that sell all their goods are generally poorer countries, like Bangladesh. Go look at any country's relationship with like exports versus imports. If you can afford to import a bunch of shit, think of colonial England back in the 18th century. They were importing shit from all around the world because the incredibly wealthy aristocracy and landed gentry within England were like, oh yes, more paintings from the Orient, spices from India, the trade's going well, boys. Ho ho ho. They weren't like shipping out bushels of grain. They were like, oh yeah, the wealthiest, the colonial rulers of the world, 18th century Britain, making their wealth off of shipping out potatoes. What are you talking about? Of course we have a trade deficit with countries like Mexico. That's the whole point of being wealthy. So poorer nations make your shit for you. I'm not saying it's good, just like it's incredible that our economic reality is indicative of insane power and privilege, and they're looking at the power and privilege and they're going like, nah. It's like with immigration. The fact that we have such a multicultural pool of immigrants coming into the country is representative of the incredible wealth and power and prestige of living in the United States. It gives us access to so much cultural capital. And they're like, nah, we're being invaded, actually. All these peaceful people coming in and like objectively making the country stronger and better. We're being invaded, actually. Trade deficits with Mexico, that's bad for some reason. We should be selling maize to Mexico. That's what should be happening. The f*** are you talking about?
$35 trillion in debt, the United States. We're going to actually start paying off debt. And we're going to also drill. We're going to use our resource. Again, we have more liquid oil. We have more liquid gold, let's call it, under our feet than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. Believe it or not, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. I did something, Anwar in Alaska, as you know. Ronald Reagan wanted to do it. Everybody wanted to do it. They say it's the largest field in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, the same size or bigger. Bigger than Texas, probably. You never know exactly what it is until you get in there and do it. But they say it's potentially the biggest field in the world. And I got it done. Ronald Reagan tried. Everybody tried. They couldn't get it done. I got it done. They were ready to start drilling. And Biden, in this case, Biden, maybe her too, stopped it. In their first week in office, stopped it. It was 50, 60 years they've been trying to get it. They stopped it. I'll start that up again.
Is that even true? Just go with no.
And I think I'll be able to get it quickly because we have gotten it done, so we know what to do to reinvigorate. But Anwar was a great disappointment. Nobody could believe that they did that. There was no reason to do it. And here we have all of this oil sitting there, and Alaska wanted it so badly. It would have been the greatest economic development program they've ever had. But the oil itself and what they have would have been great for the country. You know, when you ask how are you going to get the country moving, here's a perfect example. So we'll be starting that and many other things. And the word is growth. We're going to have tremendous growth.
But those foreign countries paying those tariffs, won't they pass those along? If they passed a tax on golf memberships, you would probably at your resorts pass that along to your members, right? You wouldn't have just absorbed it.
It sort of depends on the market, not necessarily. You look like you might.
Yeah, they will. Like 100% of the time, they will do exactly that. Yeah, absolutely. What company is going to eat the cost of a tariff and go, oh, well, guess I'll just make less money?
Be a golfer, actually, but not really necessarily.
Not a good one, sir.
Not a good one. There aren't too many good ones around, I'll tell you. But no, not really. I think that you're going to find, and I think when we do it, and different countries also will be tariffed differently. You know, there are some that make tremendous.
Even Adam Smith recognized this. It's super. Yeah, it's so basic that it's essentially like an economic law. There is no charge or tax you can impose on a supply line or the production of a good or whatever that the company will not then pass along to the consumer. They will always do this unless there are other laws that prevent them doing so. They will always do this. Companies will raise prices for no reason at all. You think they won't raise prices because they're being charged by the government?
Tremendous margins on us. We have countries, I won't go into it now, but we have countries that are charging us 200% and 250 and 300%.
What countries? What tiny countries that are desperately trying to revitalize their, the countries that have massive tariffs on U.S. goods are the countries where the family has to share their one, Soviet era jalopy. That's the countries that impose these kinds of massive protectionist tariffs are the ones where they're desperately trying to kindle their own industry outside of American imports. So what countries are charging 200% tariffs?
And we charge them nothing. And it's insane. And you just can't do it. And it's really not sustainable. It's not sustainable. There are certain countries that I'd rather not mention them now because I'll be mentioning them if and when we win. But they're going to have to pay up. And it's not going to have inflationary. If anything, it's going to go the opposite. We're going to be paying off debt because we have too much debt. As a country, we have too much debt, and we have to start making money. Because I consider deficits, and a lot of people disagree. They say a deficit doesn't mean anything. You've heard that. They say deficits don't mean anything. Well,
this is true. When you're the United States and you print the global reserve currency, it is true that you can field essentially unlimited debt. I'm not a modern monetary theorist, and I think a lot of them are cranks, but there are literally no consequences to us holding debt. A huge amount of the debt that this country holds is to itself or to institutions within the United States. If other countries hold our debt, that means they're invested in our dollar staying strong. The debt is in USD. If the dollar ever weakens, the debt becomes less valuable. Therefore, the fact that we have all these mutual trade relationships, the fact that so many countries hold debt in the United States means they're all invested in our economic well-being. Bro, you added $8 trillion to the deficit? Yeah, that's the only good thing Trump ever did.
I view it as profit and loss in a certain way. And we have to, at a minimum, break even or make something. And, China is making now with us $1 trillion. $1 trillion. They're building their military with
that's nothing. What? Just in general? $1 trillion? Okay. That's nothing. For China? Just in general? Okay.
And I had it down to about 250. When I came in, it was a $518 billion deficit. Can you imagine? And it was heading south. When COVID came, we had to play all a different game. Everybody had to play a different game. But we were getting it down rapidly. But now I understand it's over $1 trillion with her and with him. That they've done a terrible job.
How critical is an issue is the national debt, and how specifically?
Not at all. If anyone ever tells you they're worried about the national debt, you can discount their opinions immediately. I'm not joking. I'm not being hyperbolic or facetious. If anyone fearmongers about the national debt to you, you can just ignore them. What consequences has our national debt brought in your lifetime? Think. Not potential future consequences, not, oh, I saw somebody on rumble.com fearmongering over it or whatever, not a guy who's selling gold or whatever. What consequences? None. Literally none. It's fine. If anything, it's a benefit because it means more people are interested in the long-term economic security of the United States. Because again, if we defaulted on that, everyday Americans think the national debt equals we're going to have loan sharks come after us. Yeah, because and this has been Republican messaging for decades. The idea that the national budget is just like a household budget. It's not. It's not even remotely the same. In fact, not only is it not, there's no relationship between the two. There's none at all. They're completely dissimilar things, tied together only by the fact that both of them have budget in the word. That's it.
Would you try to bring that down if you're reelected?
Well, the way you bring it down is through...
Wait, hold on, I'm sorry. My insane econ teacher was telling us about our share of the national debt. Anyone who says that any individual has a share of the national debt is economically illiterate, and the fact that that was an econ teacher of yours should be, like, disbarring for them. Sorry, what do I mean for them? For him. I know what type of people do this. Okay? That's insane. Your teacher was an idiot. Yeah, they love showing the, like, U.S. debt clock. Secret window. Oh, we're, like, gamifying it. I get it. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, guys, did you know that... Did you know that it costs money to run the most powerful and prosperous nation in the history of the world? Did you know that costs money? Oh, my God. I like how they've got a section here for, like, the dollar to gold ratio, because you know exactly what these people are concerned with.
Really great growth. Also, you bring it down with tariffs because these countries are making all of our product. You know, when you have a 100% tariff on a nation...
Like a fifth of our federal budget is just debt, isn't that a problem? What do you mean our fifth of our federal budget is just debt? What is that? That's not what debt is. You mean is deficit? Like we're overspending and 1/5 of our federal budget is from the deficit spending? Isn't that... If that is what you're saying, then that is not an issue.
Better than the money is the fact that they're not going to want to pay it very long, and they're going to build...
We pay interest? Yeah, that's what debt is. You pay interest.
The plant here. If they build a plant here, there is no tariff. So we're going to do it through growth. We're going to have very rapid growth, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it quickly and effectively, and it's going to make a lot of money. And we're going to start paying down our debt. We have to pay. We have to start paying down our debt.
Mr. President, here in Nevada and I think elsewhere in the country, there's a group called Republicans.
And who is that interest going to? Like everyone, basically, because everyone holds a share of U.S. debt because we're the global superpower and we have economic ties everywhere. A lot of American citizens. Me.
For Harris. I spoke to one of their members here the other day. What's your reaction to people who are Republicans who say they're going to vote for Kamala Harris, people such as Dick Cheney and other members of this group? They're not all rhinos, are they?
A lot of them are rhinos, I will say that. But we have a lot of people that are Democrats that are voting for me because they can't stand the open borders anymore. They can't stand the stupid financial. As an example, I terminated the Russian pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world. It's called Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2. And he comes in, he lets them build that, and he terminates Keystone XL pipeline, which was so important for us as a country. But I guess, I don't know, the union got to him, somebody got to him. Maybe it was actually the union wanted it to be built. I guess it was the environmentalists. And environmentally, having something underground is better than having trucks all over the highways. So I have many Democrats that are voting for me. And largely, if you think of it, the Cheneys like war. I don't like war. Liz Cheney is, she's like gone berserk. She lost with the greatest margin in the history of Congress. Nobody's ever lost by so much as she has. And her father stayed with her. And that's okay. I didn't know the father very well. I did give a pardon to...
Genuine question, if the U.S. can sustain much larger debt/deficit, why aren't there any massive tax cuts? Why would you want that? That would probably be very popular and economically beneficial. Tax cuts are not beneficial at all. They're the opposite of that. You want money. We don't tax nearly enough. We should be taxing substantially more than we do. Like massively more than we do. To everyone. Including you. If you're making $0 a year, the IRS, they're coming for your Xbox. They're coming for your PS4.
Scooter Libby, and Bush wouldn't do it. And Cheney and Bush didn't speak over it because Cheney thought it should be done. But I gave a pardon against a lot of people saying don't do that. But I thought he got treated very unfairly. I gave a pardon to Scooter Libby which Cheney wanted to have done. He was begging Bush to do it. Bush would not do it. I did it because I thought Scooter Libby was treated unfairly. But he also was one of the first ones to endorse me. But the bottom line is he didn't. But I have many people, many more people are leaving the Democrats to support me. We have numbers that I've never seen before because they want to have strong borders and they want to have drill, baby, drill, and they want to have all the things that we do, and they want to have a lot of growth.
It's remarkable to me how effortlessly the presidential candidate incorporates, like, Russia was at first him making fun of the perceived hysteria of the Democrats over a thing that was proven to be correct, Russian interference in the election. And now, like, it's just a term, and now this is just a term. It's a thought-terminating cliche, and I guess it works for his people.
In our country. And this area, as you know, we just had a poll, and we're leading in this area. And I think we will. And the workers like me because they like the no tax on tips. They love the idea of no tax on the overtime because they want to work overtime, and they don't want to give up half of their overtime because
nobody wants to work overtime. People have to work overtime. Sorry, just like, come on.
The fact that, you know, they have some obscure rule.
It's just like with Kamala Harris, right? You know, you can give people help, but only in the grind set fashion. Like, you can receive assistance from the government through policies like no tax and overtime, but only in like a, oh, well, if you prove yourself to be a super duper exceptional worker, like, or if you start a business, you know, like in those contexts, you will be helped out. Never just like by default as a matter of living. Why do cops love overtime? Because they tend to get paid very well for it in contracts their unions negotiate for. And they can also get it doing a bunch of like random variety work because people are always using cops, like off-time cops, to provide security for events. So sometimes you can net like $900 folding your arms in front of a chain link fence outside of like a music festival or something for one night. Also, they want to be away from the house because they don't have a good relationship with their family.
Oh, I think we're doing very well. I do think very importantly is on the Social Security, because the Social Security, the seniors have gotten wiped out. And when I say no tax on Social Security benefits, every senior should run and vote for me because it's going to be good. But
run.
You know, I've loved this
Don't
area.
break
We have
a
a
hip,
very successful
Grandpa.
job here, the Trump Hotel. And it's been just great from the day we built it. And we've had great luck. I was just there. I stay here, stay there. And we appreciate you coming over.
Absolutely. One last question, Mr. President. I know you have to go. If there was a Republican for Harris here in the room with us, what would you tell that person in terms of persuading them to vote for you as opposed to vote for Harris?
I probably wouldn't tell them anything because usually it would be maybe a personality problem. Maybe they don't like the way I was tough on China. You know, a lot of them don't want me to be tough on China.
If Kamala Harris is going to lose to this buffoon when he's not even trying, I'm sorry. It's got to be like, okay, she's not necessarily going to lose. It's just like, holy shit, man. What would you say if you saw someone who you might reasonably be able to convince? I wouldn't say anything because, I don't know, maybe they don't like me. Thank you. Great presidential run. You're doing great.
A lot of them don't want me to be tough on anybody because they're taken care of by people. You saw that. You saw that with Biden. He gets money from so many, his family gets money from so many different countries. And a lot of it's that. But for everyone they have, I have many. I have so many that have left the Democrats and they've come here. I mean, the governor of West Virginia, fantastic man, and Big Jim, I call him, he left the Democrats and he became a Republican, and now he's going to win the election. He's going to win very easily. So we have a lot of them, too.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for hosting us.
This guy looks like he should be called Big Jim. Jesus Christ, he's like 6'10". My God. All right, well, anyway, just nice to get a reminder that we're all doomed if he wins. That's, you know, that's good. Hello, Artemy. You can see his little feet down here. See his little feet. Vosh, we're paying $1 trillion a year in interest, and we receive about half that back in debts owed to us. Shouldn't those values be about equal? Not necessarily. At all. I mean, I guess it would be kind of satisfying in like an autistic, I made everything line up sort of way, if the revenue that we got from interest in debt we hold in others equaled the amount of interest we have to pay in debt others hold in us. But I don't think those numbers have to necessarily align. I'm not literally saying you can spend infinity money with no consequences. I'm saying that deficit spending is just not an issue, you know? It's not. I think that we should pay back the debt and the deficit, but like, or sorry, pay back the debt, lower the deficit, or ideally have a surplus if we could, but it's not something we need to fearmonger over. It's a fiddly little number that we need to tweak and adjust over time. And frankly, the only way to get there is with massive tax hikes, which I support, you know. I flatly reject any fear-mongering about the debt or deficit or whatever else, because overwhelmingly it is used as an argument for like isolationism or protectionism, or, oh yeah, no, we have to keep the military budget as it is, but we have to roll back the social spending. I know how people weaponize this, Yeah, it's always austerity politics. Never for the military, never for the contractors.